At the 2019 Game Developers Conference, you can look forward to an array of talks from speakers across the video game industry. During the week, you will hear from industry legends, niche experts, and amazing advocates, many of whom will want to learn about you and your work as much as you do theirs. During this year's Game Narrative Summit, advocate and writer and consultant Cherry Thompson will be presenting a talk on how you can better represent disabled characters in your game story. To introduce you to Thompson before their talk, we each turned for a quick Q&A, which you can now read below. Would you please introduce yourself and talk about your role in game development? I am Cherry Thompson, a games accessibility and inclusion consultant. I was a professional photographer and artist for over 12 years, but disability meant I had to shift careers. So, these days I bring my experience in visual storytelling, the tech and film industries to help workshop and educate developers on inclusive approaches to everything from gameplay to narrative design. I have worked with organizations of all sizes, tiny indies, to us like Ubisoft, Sony and Microsoft Studios. I do everything from identifying cognitive, motor and visual barriers in gameplay, controls and UI to working through potential solutions. Slightly less often I consult for writing, art and narrative design teams on representation issues. A year ago, I started putting my experience into motivational talks. Without spoiling it, what will you be talking about at GD? This year, I will be talking about including more disability in games, from character design and world building to writing and everything in between. Specifically, we will have a hard look at how the mistakes we often make with disability representation can further existing social stigmas and the impact that has on players. I will leave everyone with some practical ideas and starting points for including disability in not only respectful ways, but also more realistically. What excites you most about the future of game development? The way the industry is constantly moving forward is the most exciting thing for me, and also how games continue to be more powerful for players every year. Whether that's entertainment-wise, emotionally, socially, or all of the above. What's something about your specific field you want your colleagues to know more about? The percentage of disabled players is often much bigger than many people realize, especially because disability is the one thing that spans all demographics. Early research is starting to show upwards of 20% of players identified as disabled. Tell us about your favorite project you worked on in the last year, the X Adaptive Controller, because of what it means for the industry, players themselves, and how far we have come. Seeing developers light up when learning about it, and players able to game well that were not able to before is brilliant. Do not get me wrong. We still have a ways to go for inclusion of all kinds, but this peripheral puts disabled players on the map and includes them like nothing else before in no small part, because it's so much like any other piece of gaming tech. Thumbnail image via Cherry Thompson's website. Bring your team to GD. Register a group of 10 or more and save 10% on conference passes. Learn more. For more details on GDC 2019 visit the show's official website, or subscribe to regular updates via Facebook, Twitter, OS, Gamasutra and GD are sibling organizations under parent company Informa. Mike Cook explores why building procedural generating or RSCAN be a tricky task. Game designer and researcher Mike Cook has put together a tutorial on his website that explores some basic building blocks of procedural level generation. It's the first of a multi-part series on the topic, and should be of interest to developers curious about different types of procedural generation and finding the balance between the unexpected and the fun. The tutorial explores the relationship generative space, the set of all things an algorithm can generate, and possibility space, the set of all imaginable arrangements, while providing interactive examples of far variations on a procedural level generation algorithm to illustrate those differences. This shows you how tricky it is to build a procedural generator. We want to think about how generators like normal game content to imagine a player playing a specific level and enjoying it. Says Cook. But as generative designers, we have to think about the whole generative space, not just a single example from it. How big is the space? How rich with surprises is it? How often does it produce something boring or something bad? The full tutorial and any future entries in the series can be found over on Cook's website. DG Capital's Claims Report, Q1 2019 tracked claims companies raising $5.7 billion in 2018, which was over twice the previous record investment from 2017. Team Swing's Epic Games, $1.25 billion was not only the largest round raised last year, it was the largest non-IPO games investment of all time. The only larger single amount raised by a games company was when Netmarble Games held its IPO in 2017. Even that record might not survive given Fortnite's extraordinary performance. Source: DG Capital Games Report, Q1 2019. Note: free charts do not include numbers and data from subscriber version. All data sourced directly from companies and reliable secondary sources. As a sign of both financial muscle and the need to expand beyond car markets, Tencent was either a major shareholder or investor in 4 of the top 5 deals last year. As we have discussed before, this is becoming a familiar pattern. Tencent was behind investments in Douyu, $630 million raised. Shandy Games, $170 million, and Huyan, $462 million raised. Francis Du raised $200 million from Goldman Sachs. To round out the top 5, 11 other companies also raised $100 million plus rounds last year, with more in the single millions to tens of millions range. By far the largest categories for investors were mobile and games, tech other, particularly streaming, each of which took around 1/3 of investment dollars last year. Mobile games, esports, console PC games, and VR games companies also raised significant amounts. The games acquisitions market was also on fire in 2018, with over $22 billion games more making it the second highest year on record. Games more dollars are always dominated by mega deals, which last year included Naspers selling 2% of Tencent over $10 billion for a 6.000 return, and Tencent and others acquiring Vivendi's $2 billion plus stake in Ubisoft. Zhejiang Century Huaacquiredischenyu Network, the online games affiliate of Shandy Games, at $4 billion. Poly Partners picked up Asmodee Digital for $1. $4 billion. Ender Aristocrat closed its Big Fish Games deal, a nearly $1 billion. There were another 8 acquisitions in the $100 million plus range, and more in the single millions to tens of millions range. Unsurprisingly, mobile dominated acquisition activity last year, as it did the year before. More mobile and console PC made up most of the rest of the acquisitions market. The games market as a whole is incredibly consolidated, with the top 10 public, i.e., stock market listed games companies taking over 3/4 of public games company revenue and around 4/5 of public game company valuations worldwide. This is not all market revenue valuation, as privately held companies are also significant. The big keep getting bigger. Over the last decade, games IPOs have gone through 3-year repeating cycles, where one huge year is followed by 2 quiet ones. The last high came in the record year of games IPOs in 2017, with games IPOs in 2018 raising around 90% less than that high point, as DG Capital anticipated at the start of last year. Well, it's too early to tell.